so that I know that you're joining us later on. And if you're watching this on YouTube, please give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and reach a wider audience. So today we are here with John Rennie. I want to thank John for being here. John is, he's got a great story, and I'm excited for you guys to hear about it. So we're gonna follow his journey. We're gonna learn about what's brought him to where he is in business, and I'm excited for you guys to hear it. So without further ado, John, why don't you introduce yourself and tell everybody who you are, what you do, and what you're excited about these days.
Well, thanks. Appreciate the introduction. So my name is John Rennie, and I am the founder, co-founder, and CEO of a company called Peak Demand Incorporated. We're based in Wilson, North Carolina, and we are a manufacturing business. We are a design and manufacturing business, and we make products for electric utilities around the country and around the world. And we have just started our 5th year of business, so we're excited. And we got a growing small business, but it's growing, and we're excited to be on the show. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I appreciate you being on. I love the manufacturing industry. I think there are so many different niches and there are so many different specialties. And I think it's such an important industry, to be totally honest. I've worked with several in the past, and I really enjoy this sounds odd, but the physical nature of the work, right? You take something that's raw and unprocessed and not usable, and you come out with this whether it's a part or an end product, and it actually provides some value to people. So I know I'd love to hear, and I think a lot of others would love to hear, how you got into this business, what made you get into it, what made you found the business that you're in now.
Okay, sure. I mean, one of the things I like about manufacturing is it's real, right? It's a very old-fashioned way of doing business. You make something, you sell it, people buy it, you make a profit, and then you continue to supply it. So I've been in manufacturing most of my career, so I really, like this type of a business. Me personally, this is actually the 9th manufacturing plant I've led in my career. So I spent 22 years in corporate America working for 3 global companies, and worked all over the place and ran plants all over the East Coast mostly. And I was in this industry. I was in the industry of making products for electric utilities. And over time, I kept seeing that that we weren't very customer focused when it came to supplying products to this industry. And these are all the big companies in the industry. So very long lead times, pricing was very high. If there was a problem in the field, usually there was an argument about whose fault it was, but we were never very customer friendly. But people bought from us because we had a long history in the industry, and people knew who we were. But always in the back of my mind, I thought if someone could figure out how to do this better and faster, we'd be in trouble, right? So as a big company, I was always worried that some small company, small startup would come along and they'd figure out a better way to do this. And so eventually I became that small company. I actually left corporate America and started my own company to compete against my former employers, actually. So we came into this industry, into this market with a completely different business model that is so far it's just taking off.
That's great to hear. And I think that mirrors a lot of entrepreneurs' journey, right? They had some experience in an industry, saw some problems with the industry, and instead of, just complaining about those problems or worrying about those problems, you sought out to find the opportunity in it and then exploited that problem for profit, which I hate that the word exploit has such a negative connotation, but it's just an economic term, right? To take advantage of resources for mutual benefit for all involved. And so I commend you for seeing and having that vision. So another thing that we always like to have as part of this interview series is, what are some things that you did that maybe there was not a manual for? Maybe tell me about an experience that you had where you said, oh my goodness, we've got a problem to solve. We're going to have to figure something out. Because if if there's one thing entrepreneurs especially share, it's their ability to solve problems that there's no manual for. So we love to hear about people's stories with doing just that. Can you think of anything that's in your experience where you've been able, or if you've had to do that?
Yeah, so the big thing we wanted to do when we started this company is we wanted to have short lead times. So right now, the typical products that are supplied in this industry they take 6 to 8 weeks when you put it on order, right? And so we envisioned a world that's run by Amazon, right? The world of Amazon is you find something online, you place an order, you get it the next day. That's the world we live in today. So how is it that in a B2B business, right, that we can go 6 to 8 weeks, where that's what the normal suppliers do in this industry? And I said, what if we could do it in 24 hours? What if we could ship as fast as Amazon ships? So that's great. It's a great idea, but how do you do it? So that was the biggest challenge we had going into starting this business and having these really short lead times. And what we developed is so every other supplier in the industry, they build to order. So you give them an order, and then they put you in production line, and they order the materials, and then they'll build it to your order, right? So as soon as you place your order, you get in line. So I thought, well, what if that line was shorter, right? What if we actually built our units up to a 60% level, right? And then we would fully customize them at the end for the application. And so that's what we did. We created a interim product, a 60% complete product that we actually put on the shelf. We build them and put them on the shelf. When the order comes in, I grab it, I do the last 40%, and I ship it out the next day. So I'm not starting from scratch. I'm starting at that 60% level. So we built an interim product design. We designed our products to be modular so that we can just customize it and then ship it at the end. So we achieved a 24-hour delivery time, but we did it sort of by modifying a product and designing an interim product.
All right, so that is really fascinating to me because I know the difficult decision making that you probably had to go through to get to that point, right? Because here's what happened, and I'm guessing, and you can confirm or deny. You had to decide that you were not going to take a certain type or certain types of orders in order for you to be able to build that. You called it, I think you called it the intermediate design or
an interim design or a modular
design,
yeah.
right? Yeah. So you had to decide, well, in order to get ourselves ahead of the game, we're going to have to be able to say no to certain things. Was that a difficult decision to make and a difficult process to put in place?
It was, and we made some mistakes along the way, right? So one of the ideas we had early on, one of our products, it has a piece of copper bus through it. And all the competitors, they put this piece of copper bus in and they press it so that you can't get that copper bus outside of the product. So it becomes a permanent part of the product. So we said, we're not going to do that. We're going to do a bolted design. We're going to bolt it in so that we can make it modular. And so we solved it by going with this bolted design. But when we went to the market, they weren't up for that. They weren't excited about that bolted bar design. So when it came to when we had to change our product, we actually had to go to a pressed bar type of design where it's permanent. But we were at one point we were going to say we're not going to bid any of that pressed bar business because it doesn't fit our model of a modular design. But eventually we had to backtrack a bit because there was so much market there that wanted that. So we had to adjust our plans a little bit. But there was an example of where we said we were going to say no to anything with this pressed permanent bar because it didn't fit our model, but we eventually had to adjust our model because the market didn't like it, right? I mean, you can make the best product in the world that you think is okay, but if the customers don't buy it, it's not a good product. So we had to readjust.
Yeah, and that's one of those things that, folks, if you're listening, this is a very transferable concept, the idea of product market fit, right? I don't care if you're in manufacturing or if you're in financial services or if you're in real estate or if you're in, technology, if you're software as a service, right? There's always going to be that period of adjustment between initial launch and feedback that you receive from the market and then there's that tweaking that needs to take place so that your initial assumptions are going to need to be tweaked so that the product and the market are truly aligned, right? And then what you're doing is you're just supplying the market with what they already want, what you know they want through experimentation and testing. So guys, if you're listening, that is a very good lesson to take into your own business, is listen for feedback, use the data that you have at hand from whether that's direct customer feedback or sales data, whatever it is, to then tweak your offering so that it is more readily, I guess, adaptable or adoptable by your market. So that's really good insight. I appreciate that, John.
Sure.
So another question I like to ask is, how have you grown the business? Because obviously, the name of this group is Growth Secrets, right? So we're interested in knowing what you did to help you. You may decide to talk about how you got your initial customers and if it grew from there, or what are you doing regularly to drive business growth?
So in my case, I am a small company in a sea of very large companies. So my smallest competitor is probably a $40 billion company, right? So I am competing with the giants of the industry. Well, the thing is about giants, right, is that they have a lot of resources, they're big, but typically they're not very nimble. So I think for us, it's been about trying to outmaneuver them and going to places where they're unwilling to go. So, going out on that thin ice, we can do it where the big companies would not want to travel there. So let me give you a few examples of that. So like trade shows. So we go to a trade show. We went to one trade show. It's the largest one. It takes place every 2 years. My smallest competitor had 250 people at the trade show, and they had the largest booth in the trade show. And I had this little, 10 by 10 booth and 3 people at my booth, right? So obviously when it comes to physical presence, I can't compete with those guys. But here's what I can do, and here's what we have been doing, is that there are these customer training events. Our utilities are always training their employees are all around the country. And so we travel to those small venues where we're training in this case, these are meter techs, guys that install the meters at utilities, and they do commercial metering applications. We go there and we train those meter techs around the country, these small events. I was just in Minnesota, for example, and I trained 125 meter techs, right, about how to use the products that are in this industry. None of my competitors were there. I was the only one that had this type of product there. And so I had 100% full attention of all those employees or all those customers to me and my company. So we look for those small events where we can really add value to our customers, and usually where the giants don't go, where the big companies don't spend the time and effort to find these small events. So that's one thing that we do. The other thing we do is getting the word of mouth out there for the short lead time. So we have customers that really love us. We tell them to tell other customers about us, and then we use them as references. So we might be trying to get into one account, and we find out they have a contact at another account we already have, and we'll say, hey, you need to talk to Joe over here at this utility. He'll tell you all about us. And we use our reference accounts to try to sell other people, to convince them why they should switch over to us as a brand. And usually, because of our short lead times and the fact that we're easy to do business with, and we easily get the endorsements of our existing customers. And so the new customers hear from existing customers, and they're like, wow. And then when we actually do it, when we actually supply very quickly, then they become, loyal fans as well. So we've never lost a single customer. Every time we gain a customer, they love who we are, and they tell their friends and industry contacts as well. So it's been word of mouth, and it's also been going after the small venues where we can get 100% of the attention of the customers.
That's great. And guys, if you're watching this, you probably, and especially if you've seen some of my other talks and some of the other interviews, you know what I'm about to say here. So John has done the best form of marketing that exists, right? He demonstrates that he can do a good job for his customers by doing a good job for his customers, right?
Yep.
And then having those customers tell others about it. That is the whole job of marketing, right? It's to tell other people that we exist, prove to them that we can do what we say we can do, and then obviously it's show them how they can give us money for doing that thing, right? That's marketing boiled down to its simplest and most essential definition. So I love that. I think that's fantastic. John, I think you have something else that I want to hear about, right? I see those books back there on the shelf, right?
Yes.
I'd love to hear more about that, and I think that those watching this would like to hear about it as well.
Sure. Yeah. No, I wrote a book, came out last year called I Have the Watch, Becoming a Leader Worth Following. And I was, before I got into corporate America, I was a naval officer on a submarine. I was on the USS Tennessee for 5 years towards the end of the Cold War. So I gained a lot of experience in leadership at a young age, and then sort of took those experiences into corporate America with me for 22 years. And, I just recently thought, well, I should probably write about some of those experiences. So I did. This book came out last year, and it's 23 short stories on ways that you can become a better leader. And it focuses on the people side of business, getting to know your people really well, and leading them, having that full respect for your employees, and then leading them in the way they want to be led. So that came out last year, and it's been a great, it's been an Amazon bestseller now for 9 months, and just continues to grow. So I'm excited about that. And we've got another book coming along too. So
that's fantastic. And guys, if you're watching, I'll make sure that there's a link here in the comments. If you're watching later on YouTube, I'll have the link in the video description so that you can go and grab John's book. It's really fascinating. I thought about there's been no better use of the phrase leadership under pressure, right? You're literally under millions of gallons of pressure there.
Yes.
So I imagine that is a tough environment to do so. And so a lot of great lessons to be pulled out of that. So I really appreciate that, John. So the last question I always like to leave with is, what's got you excited about the future, whether it's of your industry or what you're doing personally? I want to know what kind of gets you up in the morning and gets you going each day.
Well, I mean, for me, this industry I'm in, the utility industry, is a very conservative industry. So it's very slow to change. And so when we came into this market with this short lead times, easy to do business with, online ordering, all this stuff that's people are used to in their daily lives, right, with Amazon and what have you, they weren't used to it in their B2B world, right? And we got a lot of people shaking their heads in the early days like, why would I want that? Why do I need that? I'm happy with the way things are. But what I'm excited about now is that now in our 5th year, we have built this reputation for being fast, easy. And so the amount of projects I'm quoting and products I'm quoting around the US and around the world is just exploding. So people have learned who we are, and they're coming to us to solve their problems, and they know we can do it quicker than anybody else. And that's pretty neat, because the vision we had for the company before we started is what we are doing in the industry. We're doing exactly what we said we were going to do when we started this company, and customers do in fact love it, like we thought they would. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about being part of a growing business and changing the industry. And I don't know what the future holds, but I think that this company that it's small today, but I think everyone's going to hear about it in this industry in not much time.
Well, that's really exciting, John, and I appreciate you sharing your insights into your business, but also your insights into how others can innovate and how they can build processes that lead to the outcomes that create disruption in an industry, right? Mm-hmm. So, folks, if you're watching this and you appreciate John, please leave a comment, let him know. And if you have any questions for John, I'm sure that it would be okay if I put them in touch with you. Is that all right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes, great.
Awesome. And if you have any questions for me, guys, about this or how to get access to John's book or to learn any more about him, just shoot me a note here on Facebook or shoot me a note in the links provided in the description of the video below. With that, John, I really appreciate your time today, and I look forward to our next chat.
Okay, I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thanks so much.